meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. I am Rush Limbaugh, and this is the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. It's great to have you here as always. Telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. I didn't comment on this when it happened on Thursday, and I'm glad I waited. John Kasich, did you see he was endorsed by the New York Times? Well, yeah, yes,
It's open line Friday.
It didn't surprise me at all. See, that's the thing. The endorsement of the New York Times did not surprise me at all. Nor does the Boston Globe endorsing Kasich surprise me in the slightest. That's not the news. That's not the story. John Kasich is staking his entire... I'm reading to you here from one of the many stories about that today. I didn't, when it printed, it didn't print the website. I don't remember what... It's a credible one. It's not some kook place. I just don't know what it is. Doesn't matter. John Kasich staking his entire campaign on New Hampshire. And perhaps for the first time this election cycle, he had the entire Granite State political world to himself this weekend and was loving it. As he was there and everybody else was in Iowa. Camped out there, New Hampshire, Kasich waltzed his way through his 82nd, 83rd, 84th, 85th, and 86th town halls. He's done that many town halls in New Hampshire, and he did 5 of them over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Perhaps the first Republican to hug and kiss an endorsement from that newspaper, Kasich thanked the New York Times repeatedly in these town halls. Now, wait. Kasich thanked the New York Times repeatedly and honed in on one sentence in particular at the town halls. And he's hyping himself and he's telling people who he is and what's going on. And the sentence in the New York Times endorsement editorial that Kasich quotes is this: and Mr. Kasich is no moderate. As governor, he's gone after public sector unions, he's fought to limit abortion rights, and opposed same-sex marriage. Kasich also got the endorsement of the Boston Globe and 7 out of 8 newspapers in New Hampshire, per his own count. He emphasized the endorsements to voters in these town halls with the same empathetic finesse that he weaves into other centrist pitches that can be unpopular with conservatives. And here he is, talking to a crowd at Salem, New Hampshire on Sunday. I guess he's Q&A, and a guy's asked him a question, and Kasich says, and then, sir, yesterday I got endorsed by the New York Times. A couple days ago, I was in my room and I thought about all of this and I cried. It's amazing to come from where I came from and have these wonderful things said about me. Speaking to reporters after his Salem event, Kasich repeated that it was a lovely editorial where they said, Kasich's certainly not a moderate, but he knows how to get things done and bring people together. I like that. So he cried. He admitted that he was in his room, and I'm sure he was being very introspective. Some people go into their solitude and take stock of where they are. Many people do that, actually. And he was in the process of doing that, and the fact that the New York Times endorsed him brought him to tears. He cried. And then it's amazing to come from where I came from and have these wonderful things said about me. A reporter tweeted that Chris Christie's camp did not even accept a meeting with the New York Times editorial board. The New Jersey governor's team later circulated an email with the subhead, "The New York Times endorsement further proves that John Kasich is a liberal's idea of what a good Republican should look like." Earlier this week, America's Future Fund, a conservative super PAC, released an ad branding Kasich as an Obama Republican after highlighting his support of Common Core, Medicaid expansion, and tax increases. When he wasn't being asked about the New York Times, Kasich, who sometimes refers to himself as the Prince of Light and Hope, who has pitched himself as an optimistic consensus builder determined to keep his moral high ground by running a positive campaign, was questioned about his own campaign dabblings in negative approaches. Anyway, started crying over the wonderful aspects of being endorsed by the New York Times and thinking about, whoa, from where I've come from, he was man, his dad was the mailman. In McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, which is just up the road from Heinz Field, if you know the geography there. McKees Rocks, McKees Port, those are both places you never admit that you've been, even. I'm just kidding. I have affection. My first job outside of town was at McKeesport. I was a little, or as the natives call it, it's a very Polish community. They call it Mekisport because they couldn't pronounce McKeesport. Mekisport. Anyway, I just found it. I don't know what I found it. Crying over a New York Times editorial and thinking how amazing it was to have these wonderful things said of us. See, to me, folks, that's not the to go seeking the approval of. I don't know. I don't want to be. I'm not trying to rain on Governor Kasich's parade. If it makes him happy, that's fine. I'm not trying to dump on it. I just found it, I don't know, odd. Some way, and I'm sure I'll hear about this, but